Hey yo, what is the word? What goes on, peeps? Jay Porks here. We are back here with a brand new episode of Dyze in Your House following No King's Day, which was a success. I just want to say that the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are that of my own and do not express that of my employer. Never have, never will. So, 12 million people in the streets for No King's Day. We took Sunday and we rested because that's what Sunday's for. So I would say that the No King's Day protests were a success because there was so many, joyous protests in the streets. There were a lot of, I didn't see cities burning down and stuff like that. Just a bunch of people marching in solidarity with one message, and that message was clear. Fuck fascism. We do not, here in America, we do not sign up for fascism. We do not appreciate it. And it is not something that we like. And it is not something we're going to stand for. So we took to the streets. We took to the streets. And I've never been, yeah, I don't know. I mean, have I been prouder to be an American? I mean, I was pretty proud the day we elected Joe Biden. I was really proud to be an American on that day. I actually got to go back and listen to a podcast from that week. That was phenomenal. But honestly, there is we're gonna go to Iran in a second. But we're not going. I'm not personally going. Some troops might be going, but I'm not gonna go because I have not been invited. But nonetheless, shout outs to No King's Day. Shout outs to 5051, Indivisible, and any groups I'm forgetting that were part of the organization of that movement. And I feel like we should make that because with capitalism, a national strike might be impossible because we as a nation don't have enough extra funds as people to protest for a long enough period of time and not be at work for a long enough period of time where we will be able to not starve. And that's really what capitalism does. Capitalism quashes protests because you're unable to protest for a long period of time. Like during the Vietnam War, for instance. I know capitalism was still a thing during then, right? But there were people protesting endlessly. It never stopped. It was like it was the Occupy movement of the time. And you got to think that all those people weren't unhoused. You know what I'm saying? They had places to live and they had jobs or they figured it out. So, I think if we can figure out a way to, is it every 2 weeks? Is it once a week? Is it Saturdays? Is it different coordinated cities on different dates? Like, will there be tour dates? You know what I'm saying? Maybe like there's I'm just, again, I'm not an organizer. I'm just saying that No Kings should not only be relegated to Saturday. We should do that more often because we need to be out in the streets more often to let our voices be known that fuck fascism. And I'm not saying that the Indivisible and 5150 and 5051 movement are not doing that right now. I'm not saying that they're not figuring out, what the next move is. But I'm just saying that as an observer here and as a Democrat and as somebody that wants to save democracy and wants to keep wants Democrats to somehow regain power if there is ever an election again, I'm just saying that we need to keep in the streets because this motherfucker's policies are not popular. Speaking of policies that aren't popular, before we get on to policies that aren't popular, I just want to read. There was a thread at Pink Haired Lawyer. You should check this person out. And it was so funny. It gave me so much life. So the post goes, those of you that are protesting today, what are you doing with your protest money? I'm thinking of getting a couple of abortions. So obviously this is a satirical post because people claim that, all the protesters are paid and this and that. Well, if they're all paid, what are we all doing with our money? So then I decided, okay, I got to scroll these comments to see, if I wanted to see if any like MAGA people are in the comments taking this seriously. What I found was a lot more humor. Here we go. So, Cereal Bowl 78. I was going to do that, but my punch card is full, so the next one is free anyway. Boom. Perfect. I'm buying 10 dildos and taking them to Texas. I like that. I'm in perimenopause, so I paid for a few Christian girls to get their abortions. There you go. See, this one's good. I was going to donate it to my local public school for more gender reassignment surgeries. So, I was going to buy a couple dead people votes for the next election. Boom. There's a funnier one. Definitely donating to a children's sex change operations. They'll go to a school a girl, come home a boy. I'm going to donate it to teachers who give out sex reassignment surgeries in classrooms after vaccinating all the kids without informing their parents about either. This shit is funny. You can't tell me this shit's not funny. But there was a funny one here. I hear I can get fentanyl from the illegal immigrants who've been eating the pets in my town. I'll grab the next brown-skinned person with tattoos I see, just like ICE does. There you go. So you can find the easy place to find fentanyl. Man. I'm gonna buy a few congressional seats in my district and take Clarence Thomas on my new yacht. That's fucking funny. So, like, again, this was Sunday. We had fun with this. I'm gonna hire some MAGA people to harvest my crops. That's fucking funny. So there was a funnier one that I saw that said something to the effect of, I'm just gonna go to jail, and why would I waste my money on gender reaffirming surgery when I could just go to jail and get it for free? So obviously, after No King's Day, people, we had a day where we were able to, laugh a little bit. And not that we didn't stop, not that anyone stopped paying attention. Because now it's about time to ramp back up to paying attention. And I'll be honest, there's going to be things we don't understand and things we do. And we need to tread lightly and tread heavily with this next part of the podcast. So, again, policy's not popular. So, again, we're talking about, we had No King's Day. Policies are not popular with this guy. The G7 is happening. He was humiliated by Orange dipshit. Was humiliated by the Canadian Prime Minister. And then suddenly, earlier this afternoon, and this will go out soon, it's 9:05 on Monday night. This will be out by 10 p.m. Eastern. Asshole's on his way to the Situation Room. Apparently, things are escalating between Israel and Iran. And apparently, word on the street is that the U.S. is going to get involved in this war. And troops on the ground in Iran would be absolute insanity. Now, let's go back to a time where we went to war. That was the war on terror when we were attacked, right? Iran and Israel, whatever they're doing, has nothing to do with America. like I mean, they didn't do anything. Like, we're not getting bombed. You know what I'm saying? So there's no reason for us to step in here. This is not NATO. There are no countries here aligned with NATO. This is Israel versus Iran. So for the U.S. to even consider themselves getting involved in this, Republicans said no new wars. Trump said no new wars. They're the party of we're not going to go to war. But also the last time that we went to war was the fucking Republicans with 9/11. But at least we were attacked. And yeah, that attack was used to go into nations that had nothing to do with it, and therefore probably create the tensions that it creates some of the tensions that exist now anyway. But at the same time, I think since 2001, we're 24 years away, the information superhighway, the internet, people are smarter. People are getting news, at a more digestible to them. They don't have to turn on, Channel 7 and try to understand what's going on. Like, they understand. They have people who they're creators, their favorite content creators, let them know what's going on. So, like, America has no business getting involved in this conflict, in this war. Whatever's going on, but whatever you want to define between Israel and Iran, the United States has no business being involved in this. There's no reason to send any more money, any additional money than I'm not saying. Listen, I'm just keep things status quo is what I'm saying. There's no reason to send additional money. There's no reason to send additional arms. This is something that is going on over there. And it's not even NATO. If it was NATO, if they were attacking a NATO country, one of our allies, one of our real allies, I understand. I don't understand. We have a deal with NATO. And the only time that Article 5 has been imposed is when NATO came to the defense of us for 9/11. So the only reason I could see someone thinking it's smart inside the White House to put troops on the ground and to get involved in the war in Iran is to try to drum up some pretend patriotism polling. You know what I'm saying? You get involved in a conflict. You go show some other country that you're going to bring them freedom. You know what I'm saying? You're going to force freedom down their throat. And, back in 9/11, that worked because the information that American people were receiving was being received at a different clip than it is now. So the propaganda may have worked enough to get Bush that second term, you know what I'm saying, all that shit. But if the idea is we're gonna use patriotism and we're gonna go back to the anti-terror playbook, which is just anti-Brown playbook, because it ain't terrorism till you're attacked. And the only terrorist acts I've seen, I saw one on January 6th on American soil. I've seen terrorist acts be committed by domestic groups in America more than I've seen overseas, in the Middle East with us involving Americans in the recent last decade, as we just passed the Pulse nightclub anniversary. So, that said, again, getting involved, think about your Jill Stein vote when your family members who serve in the military are on their way to Iran to get their heads blown off for no reason, to get involved in something we had nothing to do with, something that gains us nothing, something that only gains Republicans the possibility of maybe getting distracting from their insanely low approval ratings based on the fact that they want to cut Medicaid and a whole bunch of other shit in that bill, in that shitty ass bill that they can't fucking pass. Whether it's the Elon Musk distractions, whether it's the military parade, what a failure that was. That looked like a bad fucking festival that nobody wanted to attend. Oh my God, what a disgrace. You know, I'm actually ashamed of myself because when I read posts that said he's just bringing the tanks to Washington, D.C. so he could inflict martial law on America, like, I'm not saying that they don't want to do that, but that motherfucker's way too stupid to do that. And when you heard the squeaking on those fucking tanks, you knew it was fucking over. And also, when you heard the squeaking on those tanks, the team probably thought, we need a fucking distraction from this. And that's what the war is going to be, a distraction. And I just want to remind you people, who have friends, who have family members, who are in the armed forces, who are going to end up having to go to war, having to go to fight a war that doesn't matter, that has nothing to do with America. I just want you to know that that's what your Jill Stein vote, that's what your third party vote, whoever the fuck you wrote in, that's what talking shit about Kamala Harris, that's what all that shit does. That's what all that shit does. So when you ask yourselves, does this help Democrats get elected? Remember that had Democrats get elected, we wouldn't be prepping for a war in Iran in 2025. I don't think America is stupid enough to fall for that. And to be honest, if you saw the No Kings protests, 12 million people in the streets, all those people want Democrats to, want no Republicans to be in power, right? So, like, there are Republicans that don't want war. So they might imagine a group with a bunch of anti-war protesters who might be, third party, independent, not going to No Kings, but going to go to an anti-war protest. Anti-war, anti-fascism, they're going to mold, and we're going to have way more than 3.5% on the streets. So good luck with your war in Iran, but if you have a family member who is, in the armed services, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be funny or be a dick, but this is why we need to be educating youth. This is why we need to be educating everyday Americans and the idiots that vote for Republicans. This is why we need to be educating them as to why we need to make sure that they get involved in elections instead of sitting out like a bunch of petulant babies who are so stuck on a purity test that they can't realize that they can't stop a fascist fucking dictator from being elected. I'll remind you again. Two things you need to remember. One, when you're posting something on social media, when you're doing something in real life, when you're saying things, I want you to ask yourself this question. Does this help Democrats get elected? And if it doesn't, maybe not say it. Maybe save it. Two, Republicans are the most vile human beings, circa 2016 through now, are some of the most vile and disgusting human beings on the planet who have no interest in helping anybody. Their only interest is serving themselves and their own selfish and their own bank accounts and their own selfish interests. And fuck them. And they should never have an opportunity to be elected again, which is why elections are important, which is why if we get another chance, you need to vote for Democrats. And I need you to share this with your friends. Check the Cash App. Hit me with $1. Do me that solid. Lunch is expensive downtown Manhattan. You got me, right? The Cash App will be right here. Should be right here. Might put it here. I don't know. Either way.